We are going to be getting started here in a couple minutes. If everyone wants to come into the banquet room, and if you dare, come a little bit closer.
So welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see everybody here tonight. I'm Jennifer Johnson, Dean of Lewis and Clark Law School, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the 25th anniversary of the Animal Law Conference. Now, as Lewis and Clark's Dean and Professor of Law for over 30 years, I've witnessed firsthand the explosive growth of our animal law program, and it's our students that have really fueled this movement. I'm so proud of them and the work they've done, both at the law school and beyond, as they become attorneys to change the world for animals. So how many here today are Lewis and Clark students? Stand up, give them a hand. Now, I also understand that we have a few alumni who planned this conference in past years. And I want to give them a special welcome and ask if they could stand so we could recognize them. This conference has become such a success that this year we had to move it off campus just to accommodate the number of people who wanted to attend. Okay. And I'm also so very proud of our Lewis and Clark Center for Animal Law Studies that continues to grow and offer exciting opportunities to our students and to our alumni. We have the largest, the first, and the best animal law program in the country, and the world's only LLM program. And I know we have some of our LLM students here tonight. If our graduate students wouldn't mind standing, they come from all over the world to study animal law at Lewis and Clark. And I especially want to acknowledge the Animal Legal Defense Fund. Without this group, we simply couldn't do the work that we do in animal law education. We couldn't ask for a more innovative and supportive partner. Now, some of you may not know that over 20 years ago, it was our law students and the ALDF that partnered together to launch our animal law program with the country's first animal law review, which started that year and over 20 years ago and is still going very strong. Do we have some editors here from the Animal Law Review? Now, I want to let everyone know that Steve Wells, the ALDF's executive director, sends him warm wishes, and I don't think he meant that as a pun. He's a resident of Sonoma County, and he's there dealing with the aftermath of the fires. But he very, very much wanted to be here this weekend and does send his regards. So you guys have 3 exciting days and very good and informative speakers and activities ahead of you. I encourage you, especially our students, to take advantage of all of these opportunities. Use this time to meet new people, to network, and form new coalitions. The work you do is so exciting. You can just feel the passion and energy and dedication in this room. So with that, I would like to ask the ALDF Animal Law Program Director, Pam Hart, to please come up to the podium. And thank you, Pam, so much for the work that you do, that ALDF does, and for your years of support and friendship for the Lewis and Clark Animal Law Program. Pam.
Thank you, Dean Johnson, for that introduction, and we have a little competition going on to see who can be up here for the least amount of time. So, go. On behalf of the Animal Legal Defense Fund, I would just like to welcome you all for this weekend, and of course we'd also like to thank our partners at the Center for Animal Law Studies at Lewis and Clark, as well as the Lewis and Clark Student Animal Legal Defense Fund chapter. Of course, we'd like to thank all of you too who have come far and wide for this groundbreaking conference, as Dean Johnson said. We have more than 400 attendees this weekend. That includes over 100 law students. And we also have over 56 of our Student Animal Legal Defense Fund chapters joining us as well. So throughout this weekend, we'll have the opportunity to reflect on the past 25 years, and we'll have the opportunity to look forward to the next 25 years. Speaking of which, I had the opportunity to meet with law students this morning at our first ever all-day student convention. And something we talked about this morning was the fact that the students here are the future, that the next 25 years, they're the future generation of animal advocates and animal leaders. And with that in mind, we asked them to share with us and write down how they would imagine a world for animals over the next 25 years, what that could look like. And we had a lot of great ideas. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time to share all of them with you, but there's a few that I did want to share with you. The first one says, I imagine a world where animals are no longer considered food, property, or entertainment. The next student said, I imagine a world where our children see and appreciate all the animals that we do now, no more endangered species. I imagine a world where all animals have fundamental rights to liberty and bodily integrity. Good one. And last but not least, in 25 years, I imagine a world where animal law is respected and not met with a, oh, I didn't know there was such a thing. Thank you, law students, for all these great ideas. It was absolutely wonderful, again, to see the energy and what we have to look forward in the next 25 years. Again, thank you all for joining us. So here's to dreaming big into the next 25 years. Thank you very much. And with that, I believe we have some of the co-directors from Lewis and Clark coming up.
Hi everyone. We are so excited to be here for the 25th Annual Animal Law Conference. My name is Ashlynn and I am one of the co-directors of the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund at Lewis and Clark, and I'm here with my colleague Moll. She is the other co-director. So we are here to introduce Pamela Frasch and Joyce Tischler, who will be speaking about the evolution of the Animal Law Conference over the last 25 years. Pamela Frasch is currently the Associate Dean and Executive Director of the Center for Animal Law Studies at Lewis and Clark. She previously served as General Counsel for the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and in 1996, she created the ALDF Criminal Justice Program. Pamela also co-authored the Animal Law textbook, Animal Law in a Nutshell. She is the principal author of Oregon's first felony anti-cruelty law, and has authored numerous other articles and book chapters in the field. She has also been teaching advanced animal law courses at Lewis and Clark since 1998. Understandably, the Humane Society of the United States and the Oregon Humane Society has recognized Pamela for her contributions to the field. I've personally worked with Pamela for the last 6 months or so as her law clerk, and it has been a tremendous honor working with her. There is hardly another human being so compassionate about her students, animals, and the law. We are spoiled to have her here, not only at Lewis and Clark Law, but also at the 25th Annual Animal Law Conference. And so now I would like to welcome Moll, who's going to introduce Joyce Tischler.
Hi everyone. As Ashlynn mentioned, I'm the other co-director. I'm Moll, co-director of the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund chapter at Lewis and Clark, which is right here in lovely Portland. As our Dean, Dean Johnson, mentioned, in 2008, the Animal Legal Defense Fund entered into a collaboration with Lewis and Clark Law to create the first of its kind Center for Animal Law Studies, which offers students like Ashlynn and myself a world-class program in which to study animal law. The student organization we represent is proud to be one of the co-sponsors of this wonderful conference this weekend, but tonight it is truly my privilege to get to introduce an individual who probably needs no introduction, but most certainly deserves one. Joyce Tischler has devoted her career to the development and the advancement of animal law. It's important to think back to when Joyce began, when there was no field of animal law, when there were no animal law courses, no animal law nonprofits, and most certainly no animal law conferences with 400 plus people attending them. Joyce decided to change that, and happily enough for us, change that she did. Under her leadership as co-founder of the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and currently as its general counsel, there are now nearly 200 student Animal Legal Defense Fund chapters in law schools across the United States and Canada, and more than 140 law schools now offer animal law classes. We can thank Joyce for these investments in the future of our movement. Affectionately known to many of us as the mother of animal law, Joyce has truly been a visionary leader in this field for over 40 years, working on everything from cutting-edge legislation to groundbreaking litigation. I had the opportunity to work as a litigation clerk at the Animal Legal Defense Fund this past summer, and I can assure you that I was all sorts of intimidated to meet a woman I truly consider to be a hero. But to my great relief, Joyce was the kindest wealth of knowledge and incredible stories I could have ever hoped to encounter. I'll admit that it was also fun for me to talk in the break room about our shared guilty pleasure reality television show, which I won't mention now for both of our sakes. Joyce, your impact on this movement is immeasurable. A simple thank you seems inadequate, but truly, I hope you know that all of us in this room are so grateful for your vision, your tenacity, and your truly life-changing work. You have opened the door for us, and we promise to make you proud while walking through it. Everyone, please join me in welcoming tonight's keynote speakers, Dean Pamela Frasch and Joyce Tischler.
That's for.
Yeah. You go right there. Thank you, Ashlynn and Mauro. That was, wow, what beautiful introductions. And it is our great pleasure to be here this evening and welcome everybody to the 25th anniversary of the Animal Law Conference. We are so happy that you're here with us. And over the next 30 minutes or so, we want to take a look back at all that's been accomplished in the 25 years. And also look forward about what yet has to be done. But first, we want to take a little trip down memory lane. So there we go. So we start with photos of Joyce and Pam, how it all started.
Yes, when we started animal law, this is what we looked like.
And as you can see, Joyce was already very forward-thinking. She's in full color, while some of us are still in black and white.
Mostly white.
That is absolutely right. All right, so here, okay, so then we fast forward a little bit. Can you spot Joyce and Pam? There we are. I'm wearing a jaunty hat.
Yes.
And you see, she has a big smile. I'm looking a little shell-shocked. But it's all, this was in 1996. Yeah?
There were 2 marches on Washington. One was 90, I think, 95, 96, yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. And is Stephanie Nichols-Young. Is there Sarah Lewick? Are you in that photo?
She is.
Sarah Lewick. Sarah Lewick is here.
Right, between Stephanie and whoever else that is, I can't see.
This
I
is
can
all
see if
happening.
I look here.
That's right, you can look there. All right, now here. So as Mauro and Ashlynn mentioned, ALDF and the Center for Animal Law Studies have been working together for years and years and years and years. And the 25-year anniversary counts back to the time that we started it at Lewis and Clark Law School. However, prior to that date, ALDF had had a couple of animal law conferences, and these are some photos from that conference, which goes back to the 1980s.
Yeah, '82 was our first conference.
So once again, I want you, can you spot Joyce?
Okay.
All right.
Obviously.
All right, so obviously there she is.
Right.
And by the way, this is Roger Galvin, the prosecutor on the Taub case.
Right.
Some of you know him. Right, this is Tom Regan. But can you see Joyce? There's another picture of Joyce up there. Yes, behind the photo that is being presented to Jane Goodall by Steve Wise.
Right. Very proudly holding it up.
All right, so in 2008, we fast forward a little bit, 2008, that was the year that the Center for Animal Law Studies was formed. And this was from the conference that year. And there, once again, we see Joyce and Steve Wise together. There's Steve Wells, who couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. There's Pam Hart, you've heard from her, and then, of course, some of our students. So it's been wonderful. As we were putting this together, we found so many wonderful photos. What's happening? This is happening.
We worked so hard on the timing of this.
We did. We did.
Oh, no,
no. What's happening? No.
Yeah, stop.
All right, Joyce, this is you.
Okay. Okay. It takes 11 out of 12 months every year to plan this conference. Oh, I suppose I ought to speak into this, right? It's a lot of oh, no. God, yeah. Okay. It takes a lot of thought. There are massive details. There's a woman named Liberty Mulcahy without whom this thing does not happen at all. But what we thought would be fun to do is 25 years have passed. We got a little nostalgic and said, let's pick the top 10 topics that we've covered in the past 25 years. So I was the person who went through 25 years of conference agendas, which was not fun. And I have to tell you, and I picked out what we've talked about often, and I broke the cardinal rule of PowerPoint. Don't put too much text on the PowerPoint. But I wanted you to see that, wow, look at all the stuff we've talked about. So there's too much copy. I don't expect you to read it. There won't be an exam. Just get a sense of the many things we have talked about. And one other thing I want to say, it took me 2 hours for each of these damn slides, so you better like them. Yeah, Pam, it's moving again.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, first topic, farmed animals. Now, many people in the movement are surprised to learn that we didn't really start focusing in the U.S. on farmed animals until 1999. It was a latecomer, which is amazing considering the number of animals and the suffering involved. But as you can see, the Animal Law Conference has explored multiple issues relating to federal and state laws that to protect or not protect farmed animals, creative approaches such as labeling lawsuits and consumer protection lawsuits, the state law referenda, those initiatives, ethical concerns about farmed animals, subsidies, tax breaks. Those are very interesting to talk about. The meat industry obviously has been a big issue. Potential alliances between and among animal groups, environmentalists, food policy experts, even with industry. And a favorite topic has been hearing from the innovators, the people who are creating substitutes for meat, dairy, and eggs. So that's, okay, we are now done with our first slide. On to the next one.
All right.
Okay, but it's all white. Okay, whatever.
No?
Whatever. We love, oh,
No?
there it got green. Okay, fine. One of the real surprises, okay, to me at least, about criminal law is that it actually has been an avenue for the development of animal rights concepts, including some of the cases you see listed here, cases that have established that animals can be individual victims of crime, that animals have interest. Each year, the Animal Law Conference has brought you up to date on what's happening in criminal law related to animals, and it's always, for me, very interesting and it's very innovative. Do you remember when we had Rich Matthews, the juryology guy? And he talked about jury selection, and that was a real eye-opener for everybody. Okay, next slide. You know, I've got an associate dean, and she's doing the slides. I mean,
It's an appropriate role.
yes. Okay, next slide. You know, if you're Sarah Beckler, you get to spend every day with chimpanzees. Most of us don't, And the animals who we're closest with are companion animals. They're the animals we grew up with. For some of us, they're the animals who are in our beds. Companion animals helped us to connect with animals as individuals, with animals as intelligent, sentient beings. They taught us to appreciate who they are. So it's really important to us to keep a focus on companion animals at all times, as well as to think about how we can create a bridge between the emotional connections that we have to dogs and cats and horses and those animals who we eat and wear. Making that emotional connection is something that we need in order to change how our society views animals. Next. Okay. Now this is an interesting slide. Look at the, I guess it's for you, it's on the right. 1993 to 1996. Those were the earliest conferences. Now, Lewis and Clark has long been one of the top 2 environmental law schools. But back in 1993, animal law was completely new here. And those earliest animal law conferences were all wildlife. I mean, all wildlife. Just look at that one category up, down. And I can't blame those students. They were trying to establish animal law here at Lewis and Clark, and it was early. And they didn't want to ruffle too many feathers, so to speak. So those first few conferences looked more like an environmental law conference than an animal law conference. And I have to tell you, I was at those conferences, I was sitting in the audience, and I had been working on this since 1979. So I was having trouble understanding why they just kept talking about fish, you know? Not fish as sentient beings, but fish as dinner, you know? You got your shrimp kebabs, you got your shrimp creole, you know, you got your shrimp gumbo, pan-fried, deep-fried, stir-fried. Well, happily, after a few years of that, the students were able to branch out and develop more topics than fish and the habitat that fish are in. And one of the exciting developments over the past decade is that we're not only talking about wildlife in the wild, now we're talking about wildlife in captivity, zoos, circuses, aquaria. And for me, that shows, number one, how the movement has broadened, but also how our society is coming along and starting to keep up with how we view animals. Next. Right. That was exciting, isn't that? Yeah, I was really branching out there. I know, look at that face. Ugh. When I spoke this afternoon at the student convention, and I mentioned this there, when I first came into the animal rights movement in the late 70s, the big issue was the use of animals in research and testing. And it was very hotly debated, and it still is to some extent. But the Animal Law Conference has tracked this issue throughout its history in the U.S., noting that it has changed markedly. We have been a haven also for those scientists in the animal research industry who have risked their careers to speak out for the animals and pave the way for change. Should I give you this?
No,
Okay.
it's all working.
Okay.
It's all working.
Constitutional law. Okay, constitutional law and First Amendment issues are a part of animal law, always have been, always will be. And this conference has covered AEDA, it's covered ag-gag a lot. Little shout out for our ALDF litigators who have won, who have won their ag-gag cases in Utah and Idaho, and we just filed in Iowa. And here we have two of my favorite people. There has always been a split in the movement between animal rights and animal protection, and the Animal Law Conference feels that there's a place for both at its table. 1995 was the first year that Steve Wise addressed us with a presentation titled Chimpanzees and Legal Rights, and his co-panelist was primatologist Dr. Roger Fouts. Roger Fouts was a very brave, still is, sorry, he's retired now, but he's a brave scientist who was a pariah amongst primatologists because he recognized that chimpanzees are individuals who are worthy of protection. So that was our first time we ever talked about animal rights. In 2003, Professor David Faber, who some of you know and have worked with and studied with, introduced his law review article, Protection of Fundamental Interests, a New Tort for Non-Human Animals. And David has written a number of articles, more incremental approach than Steve Wise takes, but they actually are very close friends and work closely together. Steve has since returned to talk about the Non-Human Rights Project, personhood lawsuits. Last year he was our keynote. So animal rights is always front and center along with animal protection. Ah, there we go. Oh, look. Animal law started in the U.S., but it is spreading to other countries, and that is so exciting for us to see because it's so needed. It's now spreading to Europe, to Asia. We're seeing it in Africa, and we are getting several of our LLM students, your LLM students, from Africa, which is so exciting. Australia, New Zealand, South America, and other parts of the world are starting to come to the table for animal rights. I love this issue personally, and one of my favorite conferences was the 2015 conference, where we devoted the entire conference to international animal law, and it was really special. Alex Bruce, the Australian Buddhist monk, former prosecutor, law professor, showed up in full regalia and started us off with a rousing keynote. Kartik was here from India, Marita from Spain, just on and on and on. It was an international conference. Jill Robinson came in from China and talked to us about the moon bears and the bear bile trade. And if you haven't had a chance to hear Jill speak, I recommend Google her, get whatever YouTube, hear her speak. She's going to make you cry. She's just been doing extraordinary things for these moon bears. And number 9 on our hit parade, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba, who do we eat? Okay? I have always said that I don't eat my clients, and that may sound flip, but I actually do believe that as an attorney, I have an ethical obligation not to do anything that conflicts with the interests of my clients, and since I consider animals to be the de facto client, I can't eat them, I can't wear them, I can't do anything that exploits them. Each of us has to grapple with how far we're willing to go and make choices that each of us can live with. Those are my choices, they might not be someone else's. But when we plan these conferences, we often include panels that ask our audience to think about these difficult issues. And our final number 10, we are animal law. This is it. This is the place. So, of course, we have always had all sorts of panels focusing on animal law as a field of the law, the clerkships, the fellowships, animal law spreading around the world, how to establish your career in animal law, how to practice animal law if you're an attorney, how to get a job. And so far, I've only been here a few hours at this conference, but I think that's the number one question I'm getting, and so we're trying to answer it for you folks. How do you get a job in animal law? How can we improve SOLDIFs? SOLDIFs to me are absolutely the most important aspect of animal law, because if you think about it, we are a field in which when we get out of law school, people go on to be judges, prosecutors, legislators at all levels. They go on to be people in power. And if we can teach them about animal law in law school, it's going to work well for the animals in the long run. We will mainstream these ideas. So the SOLDIFs to me are absolutely where my heart is. The Pro Bono Achievement Awards. I hope that every law student and the lawyers who are looking to get into animal law comes away from this conference with answers and additional resources and people who they can go to ask questions about how do I get my career in animal law. Okay, that's it. Now, Pam, you're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, you're
But
other
I still
than
have this.
right.
I'm still controlling this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. So, what I want to do is, can you hear me all right?
Nope.
Here we go.
There we go.
What I want to do is I want to honor the people who have really made this conference possible. And of course, I need to start with the students of Lewis and Clark Law School. Let's give them a huge hand because they're amazing. Yeah. as Dean Johnson mentioned in her remarks, I mean, going back 25 years, really it was the students who fueled the entire program. And it was the students who have been incredibly involved in the conference every single year going forward and in every part of our program. So I really am so grateful to the students, and they're wonderful. And that photo that you're looking at is from a very, very recent work party that the SALDF had organized for all of us to come out to a farmed animal sanctuary where we were able to muck some stalls and hang out with some goats and pigs and other people, and it was wonderful. So, so they do a lot of great work, so thank you, students, very much. And of course, the faculty and the staff at Lewis and Clark. So that is a photo of our environmental law faculty who have been enormously supportive and really helpful along the way. As Joyce mentioned, in the early days, the students who wanted to do an animal law conference were environmental law students, but they were particularly interested in the wildlife aspect of environmental law. And they couldn't have done anything unless the environmental law professors had been really supportive. And they were at that time, and they've continued to be. And I know that one of our environmental law professors, Bill Funk, was in the room. If he's still in the room, Bill, are you here? No. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, he was here. But we just have some wonderful, wonderful professors. And of course, we have deans who make a difference. So you heard from Dean Johnson, but her predecessors, both Bob Klonoff on the left and then Jim Huffman on the right, were also incredibly helpful and wonderful. Bob Klonoff in particular was the person who was very supportive in getting the Center for Animal Law Studies established in 2008 along with the Animal Legal Defense Fund. So we're very grateful to him. And then the woman in the center there is Janice Weiss, and she's the Associate Dean of the Environmental Law Program, and for over 20 years she's been wonderful and really supportive. And you know, when you're dealing with an area of law that is so brand new and is emerging, you need to have those supporters and those resources, and it's been really wonderful at Lewis and Clark. So thank you to everybody who's been so helpful over the years. And of course, I need to thank the Animal Legal Defense Fund. Yes, so that's the entire crew down there, and then of course you can see Joyce, and there's Steve Wells again. And ALDF has been a supporter of the conference, I think, from the very first year. I mean, you've been there along the way to provide resources and speakers and funding and all sorts of things. And of course, now we have a really close partnership with them and have for many years through the Center for Animal Law Studies. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Joyce. Thank you, thank you, thank you, ALDF. Thank you, thank you. And, oh, here we go. Okay. Now we're going to really get to the fun stuff. So as you know, I'm with the Center for Animal Law Studies, and we have several people who work in the Center for Animal Law Studies, and I've warned them that this was going to happen. And it's happening. So first I want to talk about Professor Kathy Hessler. So Kathy Hessler is renowned in the field of clinical education. She runs our animal law clinic. She runs our Aquatic Animal Law Institute. She founded that. She's just done amazing work. The students are so lucky to have her as a professor. And I love these photos. And so I asked everybody, I said, can you provide me with some photos, you know, like baby photos and photos, maybe when you first started getting involved in animal law, just other photos. And so Kathy gave me a stack of photos that, I don't know, just take whatever you want. I'm like, okay. And so I looked through them and I found these and I thought, oh my God, these are perfect. First of all, how cute is she here? Yeah. Super cute. And then here she is, you know, field hockey, you know, the athlete. And then here she is, you know, she's become an activist. And I'm thinking to myself, those people don't know what they're dealing with, because she's going to get that field hockey stick and she's going to, whatever they have up their sleeve, they are not going to win. They're just not going to win because Kathy's on the job. So, so Kathy Hessler, you will be hearing from her. She's going to be talking about the work that she's doing through the clinic and Ally. And she's wonderful. Yeah. And we have Natasha Dolezal. She is the director of our International Animal Law Program. And yeah, okay, super cute, super cute. This is what she was doing last week in Zimbabwe. I know. That's, I mean, so she's been working a lot in Zimbabwe and Kenya and South Africa. And as Joyce mentioned, we have some wonderful LLM students who are this year from Kenya and and South Africa, and we have one from Zimbabwe, and they're incredible advocates, and they're just going to change the world, and we're so grateful to be able to work with all of them. So you'll be hearing from Natasha as well, and if any of you are interested in the LLM program, she's the person to talk to. Russ Mead. I know.
You know, but the funny thing is he hasn't changed.
I know. It's kind of ridiculous, right? So Russ is one of our visiting professors this year, which we're really excited about. He's been teaching as an adjunct for a number of years, and this year we were able to bring him in as an official visiting professor, which is fantastic, and teaches a number of different classes. And yeah, I kind of can't get over that photo. I think we just need to sit here and just look at that for just a minute or two. And then Professor Raj Reddy, I know, look at this. Okay, I want you just to focus on this right here. I mean, come on. So Raj actually is an alum of Lewis and Clark, and now he is with us as a visiting professor. And he's been teaching with Russ in the LLM class, and he's also teaching with me and Russ in the fundamentals class. And he and Becky Jenkins, yeah, there she is. Former LLM, she is now a law fellow. She's working with Kathy Hessler in the clinic and with Ally, in particular the Aquatic Animal Law Institute. So Raj and Becky have started a podcast called Just Animals, and they may be interviewing some of you this weekend, and so they have all sorts of exciting things up their sleeve, doing all sorts of things. And then also we have Lindsey Dish, who is our director of operations, and frankly, she's the boss. She basically knows what's going on, and she just tells us what to do, and we just do it. So, and there she's an Oregonian girl. There she is. So that's CALS. You're going to be seeing all of us this weekend, and I just wanted to give a really special shout out to everybody because of all the good work that they do. Thank you. So before you heard Pam Hart say that she had talked to the students earlier today and they had some great ideas about what they wanted to see for the future. And I thought, oh, that's really wonderful, and let's do that. Let's just dream big. So we came up with some ideas. A few. Not everything, but just a few ideas. And of course, the number one thing that we dream about is that animal law becomes absolutely, positively mainstream, that there's an animal law program in every law school and a faux chicken in every pot. That's what we want, right? Yes. Cue the fireworks. All right, and how about a federal animal protection agency? Oh, yeah. What would that be like? What would that be like? Yeah, something to crow about. And so much more. Let's dream big. All right, here we go. Climate change advocates, of which we are, what happened? Of which we are, please, all of us, we need to be talking about meat and agriculture, right? Yeah, it does not get enough attention. No more wild animals in captivity. So we just took our animal law fundamentals class to the zoo to learn about the Animal Welfare Act, and we had some interesting conversations about that. Just, one of our LLM students, Lorna Munoz, was saying, why don't we just have, sanctuaries everywhere of just single species everywhere? And we're like, yeah, that'd be just awesome. That would be great. Let's do that. No more animals in circuses anywhere. Wow. And we know that some jurisdictions have started to do that, but gosh, it'd be great if we could expand that. Personhood. What? Oh my gosh, can you imagine if we didn't have to, if no animals were euthanized in shelters, if we had good homes for all of our companion animals? Wouldn't that be great? Oh, I'd love that. It's achievable. Yeah, it's achievable. These are achievable. The end of CAFOs. Yeah. No animal use in research. And yes, scientists are smart enough and they are creative enough to come up with great alternatives. We can do that. We just need to invest our resources in that. And how about an international animal protection treaty? Not just one that talks about trade, but an actual protection treaty. Yeah. So, and you know, we have, as you've heard, we have so many law students here today, and you're the next generation. I mean, you will achieve many, if not all of these things. We have great high hopes for you, and we are very hopeful for the future. So let's continue to dream big. And you know, it's so interesting because when we think about the 25 years that we've had this conference, in some ways we've gone full circle. So as Joyce mentioned, in that very first, and I have it here, I have the very first flyer from the very first Animal Law Conference right here. And the very first panel of the very first conference was all about fish, and the speakers were all from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And it was all about management practices. Well, let me tell you, when you hear Kathy Hessler speak and Jonathan Balcombe tomorrow, you will not be hearing about that. You'll be hearing about fish as sentient creatures, about fish who can feel pain, about how we need to look at them as individuals who have rights and interests that need to be recognized under the legal system. So we've gone full circle in terms of talking about fish, but oh, what a different circle it is, right? So that's very exciting.
As I said, it's fish moving from the cutting board to the cutting edge. Last year, we had a panel that was actually somewhat risky. It was charting the role of dogs in the U.S. military throughout American history. And we were concerned about bringing that to an animal protection audience. Additionally, we brought in a man named Ryan Henderson, who you see pictured here. He's a former soldier. He served in Afghanistan, and he was a handler of a dog, who had been aptly named Satan. They were separated when Ryan was badly injured and was flown to Germany. But Ryan felt very close to this dog. He felt that this dog was his brother. Satan had, like many of these dogs, saved many lives, including Ryan's. And so after Ryan left the service, he followed all the steps he was supposed to apply to adopt Satan. But the military actually handled this rather incompetently and with a lack of caring. And so Ryan, along with 200 other some-odd soldiers and handlers, was denied the right to adopt Satan, to adopt their service dogs. Ryan spoke to our conference, spoke to our audience, and people were quite touched by what he had been through and what he wanted, which was to be back with Satan. And, you know, it gets even funnier. He's actually a devout Christian, so. But he touched the hearts of our audience, and people gave him a standing ovation at the end of his talk. As a result of his talk, one of the people in the audience was attorney Marilyn Forbes out of North Carolina, who's also a former ALDF board member. She took on Ryan's case, sued on his behalf, and the wonderful news is that Satan and Ryan are back together again. And Satan is doing great, and he will live out the remainder of his life with Ryan's family. So, yeah. Okay, ladies.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about Russ again because I just can't get over that photo. So Russ, we have to do a shout out for Russ Mead because every year he really takes one for the team and handles the ethics session so we can actually get that annoying but very necessary CLE credit. And he actually seems to enjoy it. So
he makes it fun.
He makes it fun. So Russ, round of applause for Russ. Woo! Yeah.
Okay, this is really behind-the-scenes stuff, folks. You're getting in on it now. Each year, we have to deal with caterers and chefs. Some of them are very creative, and most of them, if not all except for Ethan, are meat eaters. They are not vegans. But our goal is to always serve delicious, healthful, and creative vegan food. Right? Yeah. And over the years, we've had the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to tell you about the ugly, okay? Stanford University, one of our finest universities in the United States, and a fine law school to boot. Our own Matthew Liebman comes from there. But the Stanford Faculty Club gets the Culinary Darwin Award for the 2013 conference. It took weeks of negotiation to settle on an entree for our banquet dinner. Now, it's the banquet dinner. We want to show off. Well, in their usual menu, they have something called the Tower of Vegetables. Weeks in which we gave them all these recipes. Nope, can't do that. Why don't you go with the Tower of Vegetables? We finally gave up, and they served the tower. Well, then we had to get to dessert, okay? And that was another several weeks. Their first idea, okay, listen for this one, was to serve sorbet. Why didn't I think of that? Sorbet, oh my God. So again, another few weeks of haggling and sending them recipes. Finally, they gave in. We sent them a recipe for poached pears. I mean, it had like 3 steps. What could go wrong? Oh God. After the Tower of Vegetables for the entree came out and we all ate the goddamn vegetables, they came out with the sorbet, and not sorbet, I'm sorry, the poached pears, and they looked lovely. They were in wine glasses, they were all red. We all thought, ooh. Well, get a spoon, try to dig in. They were not only uncooked, they were not ripe. And so people were like,
and then every once in a while, somebody would actually get a piece and would go shooting through the dining room because it was the force, the sheer force that it would take. It was crazy. Yeah.
Paul Waldo, poor Paul Waldo, he really wanted that pear. And he broke the glass trying to get at it. So thank you, Stanford Faculty Club, for that fabulous vegan food. Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Speaking of inedible, last year at Pace University, we had our 2016 conference. We're in New York City, the home of bagels. And we get there, and there are dozens and dozens of bagels, and we've got all of our vegan cream cheese lined up. Unfortunately, the caterer couldn't tell the difference between vegan and gluten-free. That you can't eat. I walked by one person and she had the bagel and it had the cream cheese on top, and I said, how could you eat that? And she said, it's only a vehicle for the cream cheese. So, thank you, Pace.
But then we discovered vegan voodoo donuts. And it was several years ago when we first introduced them into the Animal Law Conference, and I'll never forget, it was not our finest moment, Joyce. It was not our finest moment. So some volunteer students brought in all these boxes of vegan voodoo donuts. It was at the Lewis and Clark campus. They brought them into the Salt of Sweet. So it was Joyce and me and Paul Locke from Johns Hopkins.
We were there alone.
We were there alone. We saw the donuts. We started eating the donuts. But that's not the worst part. We're sitting there eating the donuts, and there's this small window in the door to the Salt of Sweet, and students and others start walking by, and they look inside and they can see us, and they're literally like up against the wall like this.
We closed the lights, and we're hiding under the tables.
We didn't let them in. We didn't. We just kept eating the donuts. It was not our finest moment.
No, we'll share this year.
Yeah,
we promise.
We're sharing this year. We've had wonderful 25 years of animal law conferences, and we're so grateful that all of you are here. And we want you to really enjoy the next few days, network, get to know people, form new coalitions. If there's somebody you want to meet and you're feeling a little shy or concerned about meeting that person, talk to any of us. We will introduce you, because this is what this weekend is all about. It's learning, it's going to these panels, but it's also meeting each other. These are your colleagues to be changing the world as you go forward, and I want all of you to be able to meet each other. So please enjoy this weekend. It's going to be wonderful. And before,
oh no,
this is happening. Before we leave the podium, Joyce, we have something we'd like to say to you. And so I would like Pam Hart Megan Amos, and Liberty Mulcahy to please join me up here.
Hi, Pam.
So you've met Pam Hart. Megan Amos is our pro bono coordinator for our Lewis and Clark Soldiff. And Liberty Mulcahy, yeah, you know who she is? She is our, oh, thank you, thank you.
Goodness.
I know, this is happening.
Well, hi.
So, Joyce,
Yes, Pam.
we have sometimes kidded you about being the mother of animal law. But you know what? The truth is that you really are the mother of animal law. Without you, there'd be no ALDF, there would be no animal law conference for 25 years, and the entire field would not be nearly as developed as it is today.
Thank you.
So we thought it was about time that we properly honor you with the official title of Mother of Animal Law. And we want to present you with this lovely memento of our esteem and appreciation. And just so that everybody knows, this is what it reads. Mother of Animal Law, awarded to our colleague and mentor, Joyce Tischler, for her courage and perseverance in starting a worldwide movement to protect animals using the legal system. On behalf of the countless animals whose lives you have saved and improved, thank you for your intelligence, passion, and leadership. You have truly changed the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And so I'd like us to raise our glasses and say to Joyce, the person and the advocate we all aspire to be. Congratulations, Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to turn the podium over to Megan. Thank you.
I think I'll use this step up. Thank you everyone for sharing your weekend with us. I'm here to tell you that we're going to be in the same room tomorrow and have a great night. Thank you.